Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Director Wray, for being here. I am troubled by many of the statements and questions we've heard today that embrace conspiracy theories and disinformation. And with these comments, it appears that some of my colleagues are trying to sow division and score political points rather than conduct legitimate oversight of the actual actions and policies of the FBI. I, like many Americans, would rather Congress focus on doing the people's business and ensuring that the FBI is able to do its job and do it well within the bounds of our Constitution and laws. Now, one of the most serious issues facing American communities now is drug abuse, particularly opioids and fentanyl. And in your opening remarks, you mentioned the arrest of 31 U.S. citizens in Northeast Ohio just a couple weeks ago, most hailing from Marion, for drug trafficking. Can you just take a minute, because I have some other questions, to describe what the FBI is doing to end the scourge of fentanyl and what additional tools you might need from Congress?
So the FBI is attacking the scourge of fentanyl coming from the southwest border in particular in a variety of ways. One, we are using our organized crime task forces to target the supply, the cartels in particular. Two, we're using our Safe Streets task forces to go after the gangs that are principally responsible, violent gangs, for distributing a lot of this all over our streets. Third, we're targeting provider abuse, prescription pill mills and things like that through our healthcare fraud authorities. Fourth, we have something called J-Code, which focuses on the trafficking of fentanyl on the dark web, which is a real problem, and we've had a number of very significant takedowns there. We're also doing things like engaging in outreach, raising awareness. We put out a video called Chasing the Dragon with DEA that has been showed at a lot of schools around the country. We're trying to work with the health community. So there's a lot of things that we're doing, but this is it's an epidemic. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's an overstatement, and it's something that requires all hands on deck.
Okay, and if there are things you think Congress can help you with, please submit that to us afterwards. Another major threat to our nation is domestic terrorism, and that's something you've spoken about repeatedly. Like many Americans, I find it unpatriotic and dangerous when members of Congress embrace dangerous conspiracy theories that undermine our federal law enforcement and ultimately our democracy. And I find it disingenuous for members of Congress to harangue the head of the FBI about people losing faith in the FBI when those same members have been trumpeting lies and conspiracy theories about the agency for months. Words matter. They have consequences. And when leaders lie or embrace disinformation, that's dangerous. In recent years, we've seen increasing threats and violence levied against public servants at all levels, including journalists, elected officials, election workers, doctors, nurses, school officials, teachers, librarians, and more. And what these public servants have in common is they became targets for threats and violence when they had the guts to stand up to lies and conspiracy theories promulgated by the former president and his allies. We've seen MAGA extremists, Fox News pundits, Russian internet trolls, and elected officials parrot conspiracy theories and use heated language to convince the American public without facts that dedicated public servants are dangerous enemies who should be feared. Most Americans understand that this is not legitimate political discourse and that this kind of overheated and fact-free rhetoric can in fact encourage political violence. It's not normal and it should not be part of American public life. So, Director Wray, you've repeatedly testified about the serious threat that domestic violence extremists present to Americans. And these are people who commit violent and criminal acts in furtherance of social or political goals, whether racial and ethnic motivation or anti-government motivation. Can you talk about the role that mistrust in government and disinformation and conspiracy theories play in the radicalization and recruitment of extremists?
Well, certainly there's a whole host of misconceptions that are out there about any number of institutions, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's the Supreme Court, or whether it's any number of other institutions, that in the environment that we're in, where there are people who increasingly channel their rage into violence, that causes a problem. You know, there is a right way under the First Amendment to express what you're angry about and who you're angry with, and we take that very seriously and view as part of our mission, not just to protect the American people, but to uphold the Constitution. But when those views are then turned into violence and threats of violence, then we got a problem, and then I think the FBI has to act.
Thank you. I see my time has expired, but I would seek unanimous consent to introduce into the record a press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Northern District of Ohio entitled 31 Individuals Involved in a Drug Trafficking Organization in Marion County and Lorain County Indicted.